My question to you, Mr. Priest, is I honestly believe that you thought that her parents would come up with the other $5,000.
Yes, that's what I was told.
Not her, because she didn't make any money. So you honestly thought the grandparents who bought the cars, paid for the house, paid for the utilities, paid for the taxes, adore their grandchildren, was miserable that their granddaughter had gotten herself into this terrible problem, that they wouldn't let her be represented by a public defender if they weren't sure of the quality of that representation. Sometimes better, sometimes worse, but you'd never be sure, and wanted to make sure that their granddaughter had the best possible representation. I also think that the two of you have done things in the past that sometimes she paid a little, sometimes you paid a little. You have to have a reasonable expectation. If you're suing her for $5,000, you have to have a reasonable expectation that she can pay it. And I don't see how you had a reasonable expectation that she could pay you $5,000. How? She hasn't worked in 11 years.
I had no reason to doubt her.
Well, you had reason to doubt her because she hasn't worked in 11 years. She has no source of income. Truth of the matter is, I don't think you have a case against your former wife. I also think that if there's nothing wrong with your former wife, why she can't work. And if her parents choose to support her, which is their prerogative, and if you love your grandchild, you'll make it so that their father isn't out $10,000. Do you understand? Do you understand? Because that's fair. You choose to subsidize a lifestyle, that's fine. But if they've been working in conjunction with each other as parents of two girls and done so in a responsible way, it would seem to me your obligation, if you've allowed this to occur, to see to it that he's not out 10 grand, because he really expected the person who supports his daughter, and that's you. It's almost like a job. You want to stay home and take care of the children and live in the house? Do what you can do, but he expected you to pick up the slack for her.
And that's not a good expectation. I mean, my parents have been doing this, like you said, for this many years, 11 years. I need to get a job. I need to get out there.
Well,
I've been trying to do that.
That's a shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
Now, if you promise to pay him back $500 a month, then that's what you should do.
I didn't. I never promised anything.
Now, one of the basic things in contract law that I learned, that you have to have an expectation of being paid. Right. And I don't think that based upon the last 11 years, and he's evidently been in close contact with you for 11 years, that he had any reasonable expectation of being paid back from you $5,000.
Right.
And this baloney thing with a loan from the grandparents is a lot of baloney designed for me to make a judgment for $5,000, which I have zero intention of doing. I think she ought to get a job and give you $500 a month, exactly as she should, because that's a 50-50.
I never agreed to any of these terms, and I paid her her bail.
Listen to me. I don't care what you agree to.
Okay.
What you've done for 18 years since your divorce is, according to you, behaved like reasonable co-parenting adults. Share custody, share money when you had more, when he had more, act responsibly. You called him, he went to the lawyer with you. He acted as a responsible parent, and what you should do is be a responsible adult. Now you have...
Let me add, though, in the past, if you don't mind, there was a number of years, 6 years, that I could have gone for back child support. I had to hire an attorney to get the child support that I eventually got for the last 3 years of
Just a minute, did you get it? Just a second. Did you get it?
No, I didn't go for back child support because I didn't want to ruffle feathers.
Well, that's not a bad idea because you haven't worked for 11 years and you have an obligation to work. If you have minor children and a divorce for 18 years, you have children to support. You can't sit back and do nothing. And if your father wants to let you do that, good for you. But this was something different. This was an unexpected, this was unexpected.
And I paid for her bail, too, which at the time, I had another attorney who had given me advice to get her out of jail, too, because she could help start working. First of all, it was expensive to have her in there.
Let's not, I don't like to go into tributaries.
Right.